Hi, everybody. I'm Chase Raz from TZO, and I am honored to have the privilege today to sit down with the founders of PackagePortal, JG Whitley and Gabe Cheney. Over the next hour, we'll talk about PackagePortal in its current form. We'll talk about what's coming in the short and midterm. And also, at the end of our chat, we'll open the floor through the comments section of PackagePortal's YouTube and Facebook streams for you to participate. If you happen to be watching on the TZO live stream, I'll personally be monitoring those comments and incorporating them not only into the chat, but into the Q&A as well. Before we turn our attention to JG and Gabe, I want to give a special acknowledgement to Sam, aka Zill Billionaire, for running the entire production room and back of house for this event. You may know Sam as a moderator for PackagePortal and also for the Zilliqa Netherlands group and Zillocracy. Thank you so much, Sam. If you want to say hi, come say hi to us for a moment, and we really appreciate you for doing this. Hi, Sam. Thank you. Now, without further ado, let me go ahead and introduce JG Whitley, CEO of PackagePortal, and Gabe Cheney, the CTO of PackagePortal. Gentlemen, thanks for joining me. How are you today?
Really good. Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Wonderful. Hey, thank you for having me. As we sit down to do this fireside chat, we've talked about a few things that we think the community really wants to know, and we'll learn more as we see the questions coming in through the various channels. Remember, YouTube live stream, Facebook live stream, and the TZO live stream. JG and Gabe, if we could first talk a little bit about PackagePortal's application. In the past, there have been some concerns and some stability issues. Could we take a moment to start just at the very beginning here with app stability and what's going on behind the scenes to increase the stability and reliability of the application?
Yeah, absolutely. I can kick that off. So yeah, we've been aware of some of the issues specifically with signing into the app. And so all summer long, I've been working really hard at fixing those and just leveling up our mobile dev just infrastructure. So we just released this week to the app stores a release that should fix a lot of sign-in issues and just a lot of general stability improvements that should make it easier for us to fix issues in the future. But also, part of that just building a foundation for the app, and we also fixed the false positive or the false negative or false positive green check mark on credits in the app as well. There's still some issues with the scanner, and there's kind of a reason why we didn't focus on fixing that, and we'll get into that later. Yeah, so I think I'm really happy with the work we did this summer to kind of build, to fix a lot of the main sign-in issues and kind of build a foundation for us to move into V2.
Great. That is absolutely excellent. I do want to come back to something on that, though. You mentioned that there was an app update pushed to the app stores, let's say, I believe you said this week. Is that something that's just going to be an automatic push if people don't see it? Should they re-download? I know that's a question we get quite a lot about application updates. Should this be automatic, or will people need to do a manual update?
Yeah, it depends on the users, how they have it set up. If most people probably just have auto update on whether Android or iOS, but if you have that turned off, then you will have to go out there and download it manually in the app stores.
So in terms of the end user experience, what are some of the things we'll see as a result of the stability changes? What are some of the main concerns that people were addressing and that your team had identified to correct?
Yeah, one of the biggest ones was just various issues signing in. I think the symptom that people would often see is just like a loading indicator, the spinning loading indicator just sitting there infinitely. And that was, just a symptom of various sign-in issues. So we fixed a lot of them. There might be some edge cases that I had a hard time reproducing, but I'm pretty sure we should have been able to fix a lot of those issues. So,
yeah, specifically, can we talk about the green checks for just a moment? Can you give me sort of an update of how they work? Are they currently indicating accurately when something's been credited, received? What about the green checks that people ask about so frequently?
Yeah. So there is a bug that was showing green checks when they shouldn't have been. in the app itself, and so the fix it should fix all the ones, or remove the green check for the ones that were false positives, and so they should be accurate now. If you're seeing still issues, we'll keep fixing. We're working hard for sure on that. But yeah, I guess I'll mention one other thing, just like some clarity or some detail on some of the infrastructure stuff that I mentioned, like being able to just ship software faster. We did some improvements this summer around kind of our pipeline that should allow us to push out releases much faster than when we were not full time. And so we should be able to just increase our cadence of fixes and releases.
So it does. I believe last time we spoke, we did an AMA, and we talked about a couple of people going full time, a few developers, some of you all going full time with PackagePortal. How has that process been going over the past couple of months? Have you been gelling as a team? Are there really great workflow, productivity boosts, or is it something that's still in the works?
I think we were already a solid team when we weren't full time, which I think is a testament to the 2 engineers we have, just committed, hardworking, really smart, productive guys. And so I think just being full time just opened up all of that. And we have weekly ceremonies where we kind of reflect on the week, and so we can work better and smarter and not just work longer. I think we have pretty healthy like work-life balance as well. Like we really try hard to encourage not working at night, not working the weekends, not working taking time off. You want to say something?
Yeah, which is just the opposite of what we were dealing with before.
Exactly.
For such a long time. I mean, nights and weekends for a year and a half plus.
Yeah.
Again, I had some freedom, but these guys coding all the time, they had a full-time job. So they were doing their code work and their releases at night on weekends. And now we have that back. They can have a better work-life balance. But we get way more productivity. I mean, him and I can be in the same room, and we meet here once or twice a week in the office space, and we do some road mapping planning. We bring our heads together. We've got some things to address after this call. But it's just, like Gabe said, we were super solid before. We spent some time in July, like some of you may know, together in Martha's Vineyard and bonded even deeper, cooking together, eating together, went on a sailboat, just hanging out. And that solidified our bond. Our trajectory and our path was already super solid. We know what we want to do as a company, but we were able to become a little bit more a tight-knit group. So the productivity is just a side dish to all of that.
I really wanted to go into a joke about you having freedom and saying, I remember getting you were doing social media, you were doing, heading the company, running your business. And I wanted to joke for a minute that I know you didn't, because I remember having social media exchanges with you in like 1 o'clock in the morning, your time, not even mine, your time. And so, but I'm going to back off of that for a second, because you mentioned the corporate retreat, if you will, this all talent, all hands, all brains together. I think a lot of people would be interested to know how that event went, how the process would, like, of course, in this time where COVID is prevalent and it's difficult to travel, how nice, if it wasn't, I'm assuming, how nice was it to get the entire team together and talk strategy, talk all of that? What was that experience like for you in this day and age?
I mean, it was amazing, because the 4 of us, the 4 core team members, had only been together in the same room one time before, here in Phoenix and Tempe at a coffee shop, at the very beginning stages when we were just very beginning. So it had been a solid year since we had all been together in the same room. He and I are together often, but to get the 4 of us together is just a much better experience. We had some issues with Airbnb. We had some other issues with my flight getting back, and that did not sour the trip at all. I mean, we were able to be out there and just really enjoy the island, the location, the geography, God's creation, but each other, you know what I'm saying? Some free time to where we pushed the release right before we went on the trip, and we were able to not have to work for a few days. We still, that's not entirely true. Ben was up at 6 a.m. fixing something, and this guy is shooting me, PRs and all this stuff. It's still going, but there was just much less pressure. And we have the time all throughout the day now to organize and strategize instead of trying to crunch sprints in at the end of the day. So it's been a major blessing.
Yeah.
I know how those events go. And so when you say it's nice to have time to gel and relax and meet together, I think a lot of people initially go to this idea of, yeah, it would be nice, man, I'd like to spend some time. But I think what we forget is when you're surrounded by your team, when you're surrounded by this idea and you're brainstorming and you're working, that happens. You end up waking up in the middle of the night with this idea. And then there's this fix that needs to happen. Were you able to recharge a little bit? Because what we know, what every one of us knows now in this day and age, what we have learned is that if you're not, recharging, if you get to this state of burnout, then ideas become stale, projects become stale. Do you think it was useful as recharging as much as, brainstorming some of the ideas we're going to talk about coming up here in just a moment? Or was it really a balance? Were you able to get balance between the two?
I think we actually tried to avoid doing too much brainstorming on purpose, because we wanted that trip to be just like, hey, we're humans, we're not robots here, and they had a keyboard, let's just remind each other, remind ourselves that we're humans, that we have families, that we have, lives that are way bigger than and way better than just PackagePortal and technology. Even though we love those things, so I think that was really our focus and emphasis. I think a lot of the stuff, that's on the roadmap was already pretty much there. And I think we've stayed the course. Like we already knew before the retreat kind of what we were going to work on through, Q3 and Q4. And then we've regrouped on road mapping again after the retreat. And I think it's maintained, which I think is a good thing. We still have good unity around a lot of those things that we thought were important, priorities. So I felt like I was recharged.
Yeah, 100%.
Good.
That's a
Look,
good
go ahead.
Go
ahead, JG. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
No, I was just echoing it. It was just a good adjective to recharge, to step away. When you work remote, you're working from home oftentimes. There's no clock in, clock out. It can all blur together. And you get lost, 1 a.m., that kind of stuff. It gets really weird, especially when you're dealing with a global user base. Every single hour, somebody is waking up, and I might be just waking up and have to deal with my day, but there's an emergency on the other hemisphere or the other side of the planet. Or maybe I'm winding down and trying to go to bed, but this guy just woke up and he's got a major issue. So that sort of thing was affecting everybody, and it can affect everybody who's working remote. And so being able to step away and just recharge a little bit is good, and I think it's needed and vital. I encourage everybody to do it for your mental health, for your own well-being,
And for the purpose of this fireside chat, if you will, the idea, I promised at the very beginning, we talk about the current state of PackagePortal, and I think the conversation we've been having gives us a good idea. There's this team formation and this team, what we call in business, the norming stage, the team norms together. You've given us really great insight to how that's been going, what's been proactively done from you guys as the leadership of the organization to make that happen. But I do want to stay true to the viewers here that are very interested, not just in what is, right? Of course, we could spend an hour talking about simply what is, but I think a lot of people are really excited to get to what's coming, right? What's coming soon for PackagePortal? What are the new things that are being announced, going to be announced, have already been announced? So let's start, if you will, because I think we're going to need some time to talk through some of these. I'd like to turn still with it. Well, let's stay in the application, but let's talk about something in the application you've announced is coming. KYC, Know Your Customer. Can you talk me through a little bit of the decision about KYC? Because JG, I know you specifically in the past had done everything you possibly could to avoid KYC for some purposes, but now we see PackagePortal moving into KYC. Can you talk me through what it means? Who does this impact? In what form is KYC actually coming? And in what part is it not coming?
Yeah, absolutely. You're right. In the beginning, we wanted to avoid KYC because we like the DeFi, the decentralization. We don't want to, we're a centralized company providing a service, but we want to encourage people to take financial sovereignty and own what you have, own your data, own your tokens, own your whatever you have, own it, and take responsibility for it. And also, we don't want to facilitate too much and have that liability. However, with the infrastructure bill that most people in crypto are familiar with now, just being passed, and other developments and just the cloud, from a regulatory standpoint, it makes a good amount of sense to have some sort of KYC implemented. And we were able to design an implementation that is not going to be all inclusive. It's got a really good balance, because effectively, what's going to happen? Let's talk about the why and the how. We talked about the why, right? Regulatory compliance. We need to protect the supply. We got DDoS attacked, and we had a bunch of scammers figure out ways, loopholes to accumulate. So this KYC implementation that we have is going to be on the smart contract level. You go through within the app, and you can just like any other KYC you might have done before with an exchange or something. You'll upload IDs, maybe a face ID, those type of things, and then you prove you're human and you prove you're a real person. And in doing so, we will then take your wallet address that you provide and add that to the approved list within the swap contract. So anybody can continue to scan and anybody can continue to earn export. However, if you do not complete the KYC, then you will not be able to convert your export into port. So that's what the roadblock is. And what that does is it turns all of the scammers into, token burners. They're now a burning mechanism. If they're earning a token that they cannot convert because they do not pass our guardrails, they're freezing the supply for us. Thank you, guys. And in addition to that, we have the regulatory compliance. Yeah, we're able to just stay a step ahead. But the really cool factor is that we can still enable the DeFi. We got 2 million, 20% of the circulating, 20% of the total supply is circulating right now. And so if anybody really just wants to stay in degen, ape-in without any sort of trace, Proton emails, and just have ultimate privacy, you can do so. You can still liquidity pool the token. You can still go and buy it. You just can't earn it and convert it. So those users who are earning, they're already giving us some sort of KYC based off of their scans, give us location, and they're gonna complete their address and that sort of thing. There's already that aspect. We're just going to sort of formalize it a little bit better in case we have regulatory compliance change the scope of the industry. We are now a step ahead, and it protects the supply. So there's really multifaceted benefits there.
There is so much here that I want to pause at this moment to unpack some of the answer that you just provided. Again, there's just so much from current U.S. regulation, the fact that you're a U.S. company, the fact that KYC is coming to PackagePortal. But I really truly believe that a lot of people are going to love the answer you just gave, because KYC is coming for a particular thing. For if you're going to earn export and then redeem it for port, that is the KYC moment. How much of that, realistically, how much of that is because you're a U.S. firm, as opposed to the ability to turn the scammers into burners? What's sort of the balance between those two? Are they equal 50-50?
Yeah, I don't know if I really consider the ratio. I just know that both of them are great. They both provide such value because we can protect the supply. That's important. We don't want our holders, those who earn and buy the token, to be diluted by a bunch of criminals who just steal the token and then dump it or do whatever they want to. So now they cannot do that anymore. We've stopped that. We've also kind of got in line with the flow. There's a stream within the regulatory space legislatively that's moving in a certain direction, and we've kind of dipped our toe in there now. We have KYC, we have some sort of anti-money laundering protocol in place as a US-based company, which is really good for us, just from that perspective. So yeah, 50-50, I suppose.
Well, hey, I'll take that.
Yeah, there's a third factor for us too. We have this backlog of wallet updates that we need to get in, and we've been avoiding doing it because we know so many of them could potentially be scammer wallets. And so having this KYC will allow us to have all of our existing users who have backlogs of wallet updates finish the KYC, and we're going to use that to validate all the updates, and then we should be able to get all those backlog of updates done using the KYC as validation. That one's huge for us.
we're supposed to be unpacking, and you had so much great new stuff to take a look at there. Let's pause at that moment and focus in, because this is, look, I want to preempt one of the questions we're going to get. We know this. We got it in the last AMA. We see it every day on social media and have for months. The question's going to come in, when port, right? That question is going to be asked by somebody somewhere, even if they're just joking later. But the reality is, you guys are aware that there probably are still some people who haven't been issued their port from scans and may not, for whatever reason, right? For whatever reason, they have not reached out through the existing support channels that are now in place and have been in place, but they may not have done that. Will this KYC mechanism in any way help process those requests as they begin to come in, or continue to come in, rather?
Yeah, absolutely, and that's it's huge, because again, this is kind of a gateway. Anybody who goes in and adds their KYC, we can then look back and find all of their scans retroactively, even if they were, not necessarily supported carriers. We may still credit them. We want to credit all backlogged scans for users who do follow through with the KYC, because that's sort of a commitment. You say, hey, this is who I am. I'm going to use your app. Here's my picture, my ID. That's private information. If you go through those steps and upload and become users, we want to credit you and reward you and make sure you get what you are due. We have not been able to do that because, as Gabe said, if there's 500,000 wallets that need to be added, that costs gas. Every one of those is a transaction. That's one of the reasons why our transaction count is so high. We are burning tons of ZIL for the ecosystem in the future, which is great. We're doing great on that front. However, we don't want to just waste capital, waste ZIL, and burn it and add 500,000 wallets, of which only 75,000 might be real users, and we have 425,000 which are fake and fraudulent. We just burnt all that gas, and we don't know which is which. We can go in and sift through one by one, but that's not very feasible. We do have a guy actually doing that in Spain. Danny, shout out to Danny Helguera. He's a team player. He's out there doing it every day, sifting through these scans one by one with his Sherlock monocle on. He's very, very good. We will find you if you try to scam this. Sorry. But that's not sustainable. And we need to get past that. We just want to clear out the backlog and move forward, and the KYC will allow us to do both.
I don't know if I don't think you were also jabbing at me there, because there was another project in the Zilka space where I was joking about I loved a monocle and I lost my monocle, but I think you were going in a completely different direction there. So.
Yeah, no, I didn't see that.
But it seems like we have an answer that people can finally give for this win port question, and I'm laughing because I see it in your YouTube channel coming in asking that already. Yeah. Because we poked the bear, if you will. Win port, the answer seems to be KYC, right? If the process of reaching out to support and going through that has been difficult to this point, KYC, if you plan to move forward and redeem export for port, simply by KYCing, you're able to see the scans that happened, all the supported carriers, all the unsupported carriers, and that will, if I'm understanding correctly, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but that will expedite that support request. So win port, KYC. Can we say that?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Perfect. Now, bear with me here, because I'm still unpacking a lot of that great information you gave just a few moments ago. And I don't think we need to go too far down this path, because I do believe that people are generally getting to the fatigue point with it. But in terms of being a U.S. business, that's not what we're getting fatigue at. But in terms of being a U.S. business, the U.S. does have some chaos right now in terms of the crypto market. We know that you've addressed in the past some of the steps that you've taken in the U.S. market to be compliant, to make sure everything is perfectly above board. Do you see that landscape moving in a more challenging direction? More of the same? Is it getting easier? Or from someone really, you guys as executives here, really on the ground, not to belittle us investors, but not just investing in crypto, but really running the crypto businesses from your vantage point. Is it getting harder, easier, staying the same? What's happening in the crypto landscape in terms of being a U.S. business in crypto?
I think harder, easier might not be the best way to describe it. I think, it's been really foggy. Imagine a really dense fog in this space. You can't see 6 feet in front of you. Maybe it's beginning to dissipate a little bit. Not quite nearly as fast as we would like, but we're getting a little bit more visibility. We can see ahead a little bit more clearly. And part of that looks like more regulation. Regulators, the SEC, ultimately what they want to do is just protect investors, namely U.S. investors. And within crypto, you saw the $600 million hack the other day. He gave it all back. That's great, but it was gone for a while. And that's a lot of money that a lot of people lost. And the SEC wants to protect against that. And we don't want to combat that. We're not anarchists trying to take down the government. They want to protect people. We want to do the same. So any way that we can find some synergy there, we will seek it. If it does not impede our ability to develop in the ways that we want to, and ultimately, decentralize and just build a very valuable company and a very valuable project within this space, not just within the crypto space, but within the e-commerce and logistics, just delivery space. We want to, not impede that in any way, but also work with regulators in any way that is feasible for us. You may have read in the newsletter, we had a call with the Secretary of State's office in Wyoming, and they said that we were the most clear case of a utility token exemption that they had seen. And we're most likely, we're working on an application to be the first application in that state for the utility token exemption, as well as a sandbox, a fintech sandbox that has reciprocity with a number of other states, Arizona here as well. So I think it's 22 other states, in fact. So that's really good. There's steps that the governing bodies are taking to enable crypto companies to dip their toes and inch forward. But we want to take leaps and bounds. We don't want to move in increments of centimeters and inches. So we need that fog to clear up as fast as possible. And we're just going to keep running.
And we'll try to make wise decisions, even if it, in the meantime, as wise and as integritous as we can.
Mm-hmm.
That's the best you can do, and we appreciate you for doing that because it keeps all of us safe. And first of all, congratulations on having a meeting with the Wyoming, their business department there. And I love that. I was taking notes very quickly. If you saw me looking down, one of the most clear cases of a utility token for the utility token exemption in Wyoming for their exemption. Now, is there any, and I don't want to go too far down this path. There are a couple things about your app I want to move on to in just a moment, but is there anything in terms of getting that exemption in Wyoming that would speak to other states, or is that going to be Wyoming specifically and the federal government's kind of going along with it? Again, I don't want to go too far down this rabbit hole because our non-American viewers probably don't care too much, but just as a final cap to that, how important is that Wyoming exemption if you're, like me in Florida or looking at somebody in New York? Are there ramifications for it even outside of the US?
Yeah, so you're right. It's very limited. It's limited to one state. However, this bit of legislation has reciprocity, they call it, with 22 other states, if I'm not mistaken, which means it's not limited to only Wyoming, but it is still only limited to the US. And we have probably 80% of our users are not in the US. They're, in the Southeastern Asian Pacific and in the EU, India. And so we're limited in that capacity. Even if we were to pursue, which is on the table, we're discussing it with our legal team, and we're looking ahead, potentially a SEC no action letter. That's kind of, it's not a permission slip, but it's just an agreement with the SEC that says, okay, you can develop in this space in this way, and we will not pursue you for 2 years. So it's kind of like a permission slip, but still, even this is limited to the US. Right. So this is just us, a good faith effort, us trying to take that step and say, okay, we see that you have this license, this permit. We want to try to acquire that because we want to work from here. We are US citizens. We want to work here. It's a US company. We don't want to move. We will if we have to. Most of our users are not here. We can easily move. We can move over. Sam was at the beginning of the call. He can set us up in the Netherlands. We have some people in the Cayman Islands that we can set up, or Singapore. There's a number of different places that we could incorporate and create a different company to move everything over. We don't want to do that. We want to play and play here, play home for the home team, and keep our innovation here, and bring the income and the jobs that will come with this innovation here. but we're kind of handcuffed right now, and we're working through that. We're trying to pick the locks. That's all we're trying to do.
Just trying to do the best you can, and again, we do appreciate that, because it is a very difficult thing that even as investors, we have we tend to have a more singular mindset of we're acquiring on speculation and on potential profit growth, and that's not the area you're operating in at all. You're operating from business fundamentals, from utility, and so given the choice between the two, I'm going to take my position as an investor, because I personally feel it's easier on my side. So thanks for doing all of that work. The rest of us may not necessarily want to do for our investments. Keeping with the app though, let's get back to the application. I hear that you have, or that you're entering into a new phase, if you will. You were talking to me the other day about phase 1 and phase 2 of PackagePortal. And as we move into this phase 2 concept, one of the big, large, super great ideas here is creating a funnel for integrating merchants into the application. I don't want to put words in your mouth by composing a question around that. I want to put this as an open question, an open statement. Rather, what is merchant integration, and what are we looking at over the next few months coming to this application and enabling on the business end?
Yeah, so we're really excited about this. So I'll talk to the phases real quick. You mentioned that. So phase 1 of the company was really market validation. Can we build something in the logistics space, that will allow users to confirm or prove their receipt of a package for a thing. And so it was very simple, very MVP, very early stage, and we did that very thing. We validated that users will do that. And so thank you all the users who helped us validate that. So phase 2 of the company is really building the thing that we wanted to build in the first place, right? So we want to build a way for users to both prove the receipt, right? That they received a package from a merchant, and rate that delivery. And so getting that feedback loop back to the merchants is really what we've been wanting to do this whole time. So, but part of that is going to also be the input, right? We want to receive the orders that people are getting directly from merchants, so that we can validate the user's confirmations directly on the merchant data. So we're not going to third parties to check for valid tracking numbers. And that interaction between the merchant and the user is really what we were trying to build the whole time. We want to build a close interaction between a merchant and a user receiving a physical item from that merchant, bypassing all third parties, a direct connection. And so that's the other project, huge project actually, that we've been working on all summer. And we just recently demoed an internal MVP, really exciting, fully working back end and front ends. It's not prettyified yet, but it's working, it's functional. I'm really excited about that. And so the next part of that project is now getting it fully working in the app, in the front end, making it pretty, and we're going to add a bunch of other nice things for just the aesthetics of the app with that. And so that's what we're calling now, as part of the kind of the phase 2 of the company, is the V2 version of the app that includes all that merchant integration, kind of a retake on the aesthetics. And then another detail of that, and I mentioned this earlier, is we'll probably be moving away from having to scan, which is kind of a big change for the user experience, but it should be easier now for people who are confirming packages, merchants who have integrated with us. So do we want to show those screens now?
Sure, yeah.
Let's take a look.
Visual representation, same as got a couple slides up.
So these, just want to emphasize, these are concepts. We're already starting to change the way some of these look, and we're still, kind of, working on that. But these are some concepts. Did you want to mention something about this one?
Yeah, I mean, so the home screen will evolve. You'll have more information there, similar to this. Like Gabe mentioned, this is not locked in stone. We may tweak and change a few things, but this is the general direction that we're going, where your delivery already is showing up. Well, Sam, can you give the next? Yeah, there we go. So if you were to input a bad tracking number, you'll get this error. That was one of the major issues that users had. Like, which scan am I getting credited for? Which tracking number was good? Which one was bad? Now with this update in V2, you'll be able to know. This one is not good. Sam, give me that next one, please. And this is what you would see if you have a proper tracking number that is supported by one of our carriers or merchants. You get the green check, and then as you build those up, Sam will show you the next slide, and you'll be able to, it's kind of long, but this is what your home screen on the phone would look like as you scroll up and down. You can see the confirmed ones. You'll be able to tap those, go back and find some different information. And this is just, just the beginning, still just the beginning, because we have lots of features that we can build into those little tabs and give you different information on your packages and your orders. But this is the direction that we're trying to move, and what it would mean is you don't necessarily have to scan. You will already potentially have your tracking numbers, your orders sent to your device. You'll get a notification maybe before you get an email notification that says, "Hey, your package has been shipped. It's on its way." And then when it arrives, you can just tap and then confirm.
Mm-hmm. And give your rating at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Those look absolutely amazing, and removing the scanning process, I imagine, is something so helpful, not only to you guys, because you're right, you can get bad scans. There are so many barcodes on different, some boxes that come in, some packages that come in, but then that same application, when we think about that concept of all these barcodes, how much easier it's going to make it on us scanning, not having to figure out which barcode am I scanning, all of these things. So conceivably, as soon as we make an order online, just like, we get the email notification, and then our digital assistant of choice, whichever one we use, will sometimes understand, hey, you have a shipment coming, here are the details, here's its tracking number. Am I understanding correctly that Package Portal will receive that information? It's already in the application, and then you simply go to the application when the package arrives, indicate it's there, and rate the quality of service?
Yeah, that'll be the kind of primary flow that includes that whole pipeline that I mentioned, where the merchant is, sending us that data. So a lot of the project was building that part out. We're still trying to work out the flow for being able to enter scans and earn, or to enter tracking numbers and earn for merchants that we don't have onboarded yet. We're still trying to figure out how to merge those. So those two screens that JG showed, where you're entering the tracking number and it's validating it, those are concepts around that flow.
Yeah.
We have some good ideas. I think we'll be able to pull it off. But yeah, those will be the two main flows.
Well, I was going to dig into that next, because of course, right, not all merchants are going to come on board initially. There will be merchants that either have different systems or do different things. So they'll still, depending on the merchant, it's not necessarily going to be the merchant that determines whether a scan or a shipping number is going to be good or not. That's still going to be which carrier it's coming through, or will we see a time where certain merchants are accepted and certain merchants aren't?
For merchants that are onboarded, it'll be easy, right? We'll just check against the data they sent us, the tracking number they sent us, and if it's associated to that user, then it's easy to validate. For tracking numbers that for merchants that we don't have onboarded yet, we'll probably still need to be validating against a third party and checking just the validity of the tracking number and the delivery date and those kinds of things, like we have been in the past.
But okay, if you get YC, then you get a leg up.
Right. So both options are still available. And if I go shopping somewhere that's not necessarily automatically supported, it's not like I'm necessarily going to lose my scan. I just may be manually entering the tracking code.
Yeah,
Yes.
And based on the contracts that we have with different merchants, there may be a better incentive if you're scanning their products. If you've got merchant A, you scan one of their products, maybe you get 2 or 3 export, whereas an unsupported carrier might just be 1 export. Those numbers and ratios can change, and there's a lot of flexibility that we have with, just tweaking what we need to make sure that our paying partners are benefited and those users are benefited.
Yeah. I'm seeing some stuff coming in the chats that V2 is looking very solid. I am going to I'm going to want to move on here for just a moment so that we can get to some of those comments here towards the end of our hour. We still have some more content in the chat, and I see this one on screen. V2 will be dope. I absolutely agree. There was a question. I'm going to break a rule here. There was a question that came through that I want to go ahead and place right now rather than waiting until the Q&A. It was, is there going to be any type of public beta where people can kind of opt in and say, let me try this out? Or is it going to be internally betaed and then rolled out to all end users at some point?
That's a good question. I don't think we have some internal testers that have been helping us. Thank you, internal testers. But we could explore potential open beta.
We could, yeah. We've got internal testers, like you said, testing the KYC function right now because, as you may have read before in the newsletter, KYC has been ready for Apple for weeks now. But our third-party service provider, they had a bug for the Android. We gave them like a month to fix it, and they just didn't. And they kind of just were not great with the communication, so we moved on. But we have people testing that, but it's a small group. We could potentially do a larger public beta. We can discuss that. It's a good idea. We'll explore.
Excellent. Yeah. So, thanks. I know I'm breaking our agreed to format there, but I thought that was a question that I thought let's go for it. Let's ask it right now. As we move on from the merchant integration, I do want to just ask if there's anything else about that concept, about merchant integration, that you want to put in before I start steering the conversation in a different direction. Maybe something, I'm personally interested in, maybe some timelines of what you're expecting for when will merchants start to be integrated, or anything else about that feature set that you'd like people to know right here in our fireside chat.
Yeah, the timeline could be a good segue into the next discussion, because what we want to do is have that V2 ready in Q4.
You're on to me. That is my segue. Perfect. Yeah, so let's do it.
You're good. Yeah, so that's our goal, is to have V2 ready in Q4, early Q4, not late Q4, very early, because we want to have a very big marketing push. We're going to go and try to acquire both users. We've been doing the back-end business channel for months now. Gabe and I have been on numerous calls every week, all the time, talking with people. So we have a couple of companies, as we mentioned in the newsletter again, that we've been working with. We have a couple case studies and pilot programs that we're developing now. Communication has been off. One of the guys is very busy. His digital team has been delayed. So, we're standing here ready to build. But as we bring on more merchants, that will be probably towards the end of Q4, because in Q4, as some of you may know, the shipping industry just explodes. I've been in logistics for decades now, and in this particular business, e-commerce, the last few years, it's astronomical. We are constantly having just exponential growth as far as volumes go. Everybody's shopping online, and everybody's getting packages. So we want to have all those people getting packages scanning with PackagePortal Live. It's just a really concentrated period of the year where everybody can become a more heavy user. And so we're going to really target them, users and businesses, merchants. But we can, there's two ponds. We're fishing for users because we want to build that up, and we want to have that data. We want to have those users speak numbers to other merchants. Before we can get a lot of merchants, if we have 10 users, they don't care. If we have 10,000 users, they'll arch an eyebrow. But if we have 100,000 or 1 million users, then they're very, very interested. So it's important to get more users. We have a lot of users. You saw the stats in the Zilhai video. We have 680,000 registered users. Maybe about 20–30% of that is accurate. We've got hundreds of thousands of users, millions of scans. However, we also need merchants. So it's this chicken and the egg dance that we're doing, where we're acquiring both. And we intend to pursue merchants a lot more heavily once we have the V2 out there, and we're doing that now because we have concepts and we have some things that we're not sharing publicly that we can have and we can share in these calls, demos, and things like that. But Q4 we're going to pursue much more heavily.
So the version 2 coming early Q2, and that will mean that KYC will be there, merchant integration, the capability to onboard those merchants, that will all be there at that time.
It'll be early Q4 for V2.
I'm sorry. Yeah. I'm looking at V2, so I said Q2. Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, so KYC will come before V2. It'll be part of the existing app, and that's mainly for that reason that we had said earlier, where we want to finish the backlog of wallet updates. But V2 will have the merchant integration, it will have the aesthetic updates, and yeah, that's the big stuff. It'll be a lot.
So hearing more about what's coming in the timeline, JG, you just a few moments ago mentioned the number of active users and the scans and how the various number of users gives a different level of attention to the marketplace, right? It brings more attention. And we spoke about that a little bit before, how with some of the scam wallets, how we've talked about this off air rather, where that costs Package Portal Zills, right? You're expending Zills to do wallet updates, to issue all those. But I had put something out the other day that talking to you that I had kind of asked a personal question. I said, I haven't been shopping online as much recently. And I said, do you have anything in the Package Portal stats that supports that it's a trend? And you kind of looked back at me and said, no, that's just you. We're healthy on our scans. And one, it made me feel like I need to step up my game. But two, it made me feel really good about the health of Package Portal. So going into Q4, right, when we're talking about Q4 and beyond, that doesn't seem like there's anything on there. You talked about bringing more users, really getting when people are in their heavy shopping season of the year in Q4. But it doesn't seem like this is just natural growth. It's not something to reverse some trend of as we try to head into post-pandemic. I know we're not there yet, but it's not like there's some fall off in shipments. It's not that there's some fall off in scans, if that's correct. It seems like it's just the next natural progression to keep building the user base. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, to your point, everybody doesn't order a package every day. Anybody can send a tweet every day or 1,000 times a day, but you're not going to order that many packages and have that many confirmations. So our daily use is going to be much less than some other social apps or game apps or what have you. But we still have really good numbers. Gabe pulled a rough stat the other day when we were speaking. I think it was 42,000 scans within the last 30-day period. Which is, I think your math came out to about 1,200, 1,500 scans a day.
Yeah, I don't have that math with me right now, but I was impressed. Yeah.
Yeah, 42,000 scans in a month from largely, verified real users because we filtered out. There may be a few in there that are, questionable, but that's pretty good numbers.
Yeah.
Daily active users and scans, that's really good for a startup, especially considering the crypto market tanked. It's coming back up, but Zill and everything, it fell out. Port's price, the market value, I don't speak about it much, but it went way up here and then it came way down here. And all of those different factors can push people away from crypto apps and dApps and that sort of thing. But we're not just a crypto dApp. We are a application for anybody who shops online that can earn crypto and integrate with crypto, but you can also do it outside. So the fact that those things have happened, the bugs that we had, not necessarily negative PR, we've had some positive PR, but we've got some disgruntled users that we want to take care of, and all of that, we still have a decent amount of users. So it speaks well to the health of the company, like you said, and the health of the product, and this again is like MVP level V1. All the upgrades are still yet to come. So that's when we have a more refined version update, then we can pursue more users because we know that they will not have the same problems. We'll have more communication lines built in, intercom and different channels of communication so that we can have better customer success.
Well, I appreciate you talking about the network health and giving, more data on that, because I think one of the things people do like to talk about is price of the token, especially the port token. But again, I want to reiterate that because Package Portal is an American business, that's something I'm not necessarily going to ask too much about, even though it is something of interest, because again, for legal reasons, executives of the company can't really be doing a lot of speculation on market pricing of things. And as we know, Port is market priced with still the same redemption value it always had from the beginning. But we did talk about before, and before we finish up on the Q4 section and move into Q&A, so everybody get your questions ready, start posting on the Package Portal YouTube stream and Facebook stream right now. I'm also monitoring the TZO stream personally. But I want to recap that we already talked about the fact that those investors who are buying port on the market, right, who are concerned with the market speculation and the market pricing, they're not subject to KYC if they're buying on a DEX, right? That DEX still functions the same way it does and has before. So I thank you for really bringing it kind of full circle, if you will, to the conversation we were having earlier about how does KYC fit in? How does merchant integration fit in? What's the network health? I believe these things all really go together. What else in Q4 would you like to talk about before we go to Q&A? Any type of new features coming, any type of announcements? What can we look forward to in Q4 and beyond?
I was going to say, we're really focused on V2 of the app for, start of Q4 and working through, making sure that's healthy. We do have some maybe we could just keep them as surprises for future AMAs. We have some stuff that we are working on, maybe crypto focused in Q4. But yeah, we'll maybe save those.
Yeah, that's better. We'll have some fun stuff going on, some games and ways to have fun.
Yeah.
Well, let's do it. Let's go ahead, if you gentlemen are ready, and let's go to the Q&A. So if everybody has their questions, go ahead and start rolling them in. Sam, if you see anything you'd like to pop on the screen, go ahead and do that. I'm going to start off with one that I saw a little bit earlier, of course, giving a priority to the TZO stream. Sorry about that. But there was a question about Amazon. Alan Kramer asked if Amazon is ever coming back in the picture, if you've had any talks with them, or if that's something we may hear about in the future.
Amazon actually has a SDK. They've got a way to integrate. Go ahead, you can speak to that.
Yeah, we're still it's kind of like a lower priority thing we're exploring. Is the possibility of integrating with Amazon's login. It's like an OAuth, like your Google OAuth or your Google sign-in. You can sign in with Amazon potentially, and I don't know all that we can get with that, but there might be some ways we can leverage that to validate tracking numbers, but I'm not sure yet. That's kind of lower on our priority right now, but we are excited about it. We're just trying to get this other V2 out first.
Excellent, thanks. And Sam, after I ask this one that's on screen now, if we could go back to the one that you had before, but Hans Olo says, if all is up and running, I wonder, will Christmas or Easter extras in the app? So I guess I'm not sure what they're getting at. Are they asking about Easter eggs in the application? Or if the app's going to be up and running by Christmas? I'm not sure the spirit of this one.
Yeah, potentially both.
Well, let's talk about the Easter eggs. I'm more interested in taking that one into Easter eggs. Are there Easter eggs in the app? Are there any secrets?
There's no Easter eggs in the app, but there could be some out in the real world that you can use the app to locate and find. We'll have to see.
Ooh. It's wait, did we just get a partial confirmation of a treasure hunt part 2?
Maybe.
Hey, look, I'm excited. That's news to me. So great question. I hope I got the spirit of that question right. This question right here, the marketing campaign that's set to go live, is it focused for user acquisitions or to attract more merchants and enterprises? I think I'm going to stop that question there because it does talk about the business goal for last quarter. But I'm curious going forward. You can address the past if you want, but going forward, that's a really good question. Marketing campaign, is it for user acquisition or for merchant acquisition?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And it's going to be for both, really. Most of the marketing dollars that we will spend will be for user acquisition, but we have portions of that are going to go to business acquisition. You don't have to spend as much money. Targeted ads on LinkedIn profiles and that sort of thing, it may work. We have a really good network of individuals so that if we need to meet with somebody, when we're ready to meet with somebody, we can get them on the phone and set a call. So we don't need to spend a lot of dollars there, which is just great. Shout out to all of our advisors for having a great, strong network and the ability to go out and set up calls. They've done that, for months now, just constantly. Sometimes we have too many calls, which is a great problem to have as a young startup. But we don't need to spend a lot of dollars there. We are going to focus on merchants and clients and marketing to them, but most of the budget is going to be spent on user acquisition in the crypto space and outside of it.
I think what you're saying is like in music, right? If you're an independent artist and you have large crowds coming, you don't really have to spend a lot of networking effort to try to get A&R reps to come visit you, right? They already see the ticket sales. So if you already have a lot of scans, then you probably don't need to expend as many resources looking for merchants. Exactly. Would that be correct?
Exactly. Yeah, that's great. And then just
Malcolm,
to answer, I forget, was it Hans Olo, whoever asked that question, the secondary part, the business goal is to succeed in the marketing efforts, to gain more users. We can have some internal goals. We're not going to set them publicly because if we don't meet them, we don't want any backlash. But we have some internal goals for user acquisition and client acquisition. So that is our business goal.
excellent, excellent. Hey, you know what? As the crypto space matures, I'll push more and more and more to get those public. Malcolm asked, what future projects is Port going to be involved in? And Malcolm, I have to admit, I don't know if you mean external projects or internal projects, but I'm going to leave this to the imagination of JG and Gabe and see where it takes them. So any future projects?
I think we talk a lot about the ones that we've been working on really heavily. But we have had talks with other teams in the Zilliqa network, other ideas floated around of collaborating, but I won't mention those yet. But I'll just say, yeah, there are some promising collaborations that we've explored, and right now we're just super focused, heads down. Part of the reason why we haven't had too many AMAs, actually, we've just been working hard, but there are some promising ideas. So
since you like treasure hunts, any hint that we can look like this is a crossword puzzle or a word search, any hints on maybe what field those potential partners are in, or anything you can give us just to keep our wheels spinning for a few months?
16 down, 48 across.
Okay, we're just making stuff up now. Yeah.
So ZRC, the ecosystem is growing, right? We've got some really cool projects coming on. Xylo was going on. It launched today for the Blocks token, Carb, Zil Ducks. There's some really cool stuff with NFTs and identity and all sorts of different applications that these guys are putting together. And we are 100% down to collaborate in ways that make sense for both projects.
I'm going to confirm with you after privately, but I think you actually put some hints in there. I really do think you did.
I like hints and treasure hunts and scavenger hunts and that sort of thing. Clues.
I'm going to interject a question that's not on screen just yet. So there's a question that's coming in through the TZO stream that says about some of the backlogging and the crediting of scans. Can you verify that it is technologically possible? So if somebody KYCs, right, you see the application, you see the account it's coming from, you do have the scan history for that all the way back to their first scan, correct?
Correct. Yeah, as long as they have not created some other account. Yeah, if they add the wallet, the information that they had to begin with, their wallet is going to link them, their email is going to link them. Those are the two. If they change those, then there could be an issue trying to hunt them down, but we can find them.
Well, I can speak to that too. Yeah, I can speak to that and vouch for you because that happened to me personally, and your support team took care of me in a couple of days. And that was, of course, after you were able to speed up, get some people on it. And I know some people took longer, but that happened to me as well. So we have a question here. Have we closed any deals with enterprises? Oh, that's great. This is open, I would imagine, to merchants and carriers. Are we waiting until after the bridge for certain announcements?
Yeah, we have not.
Two-parter, enterprises and bridge. Let's take them in part one and part two. How about enterprises? Any deals with enterprises?
No, we don't have any contracts inked with any enterprises. We have case studies and pilot programs and ongoing discussions, but we have not closed any deals.
Yeah.
And
look, you said case studies and pilot programs. I'm there, but not closed any deals yet.
No, we haven't closed any deals. We have really, our advisors are super awesome, and their networks are impressive. So we are confident, and we have a few different, kind of angles we're kind of focused on with BizDev. One of them is just directly with merchants. Another one that we're talking about this week is shipping software companies. So like the Shippos, the Afterships of the world, those kinds of companies is another angle we're exploring. So we have a few angles, and we're confident with the network that we have.
And we're having discussions with a number of different verticals, like shipping container companies and big transportation companies that are doing, overseas, inbound, outbound, exports, imports. That's something that we're exploring, but we're mostly focused on the consumer end, like we have been, and we have a number of different developments ongoing there.
What about the bridge? Because I know we just experienced the Poly network hack. Of course, it didn't impact us, and it didn't impact a number of chains connected. But also, I believe we're expecting a Zilliqa announcement on that. It could have already happened while we've been in here slightly before, and I may have missed it. If not, it should be soon. Is there any news that you have, or can you say that yes, we have some type of announcement that has some type of timing to do with the bridge? Is there anything like that we can look forward to?
Well, yeah, exchange listings. So we've been kind of sidelined on listing on other exchanges. We want to get the port token on the ETH network, and we can do that. We can create the token, but then it gets a little bit weird and convoluted when you're trying to convert a native ZIL over to ETH, and you've got, then you have essentially 4 tokens. And we don't want to do that. So we've been waiting for the bridge to go live. And once that is live, then we're going to list on a couple of DEXs. And then we'll have some marketing pushes, a little bit of, some media and collateral to announce it, and try to expand out to the Ethereum community. Not necessarily news that's kind of been known for a while,
Right.
but that's what we're excited about when the bridge comes. And it kind of worked to our benefit, like you say, because we were not a part of the hack. And I don't think that even if Zilliqa was connected to the Poly network at the time, that they would have been susceptible, because their contract code, Scylla is just better. You can mathematically verify. You can secure your contracts, which is one of the main factors that drove us here in the first place. Not just the sharding and the scalability, but the security of the smart contracts. Because even 2 years ago when we began this, hacks and exploits were ongoing and a problem. Solidity, Amrit, if you go look at Amrit's Twitter, he just posted a little commentary, or maybe it was in Telegram. I'm sorry, I have to try to find it. But he spoke to the fact that this just is too broad. Solidity allows for too many other unknowns to slip through, and Scylla does not. So we're excited to move over to Ethereum to have that liquidity and that user base, but our operations will remain on the Zilliqa network for now.
So I thank you for that. I think one more question here, and I'm going to pull a question that I think a lot of people are curious about, if they're already, if they've already scanned and received port and export, if they've bought on the open market. The question is, are there any further LP rewards planned for after summer rewards? I think you've talked extensively in the past about sort of the plan for LP and rewarding folks who participate. But I wanted to throw that question out, not because I kind of feel like we know what you've answered before, but in combination with that post-bridge world where there may be the possibility of listings elsewhere, if there's anything new that's occurred in that space over the past few months.
I don't know. Hard to say.
I don't know if that's one of those treasure hunt answers, or if that's sort of, just sort of a measured, like, we're not there yet. So is that something we could leave it as, like, for the LP, right? Let's get through summer rewards and then you'll address, or is that just something that's currently really truly in flux?
Well, it's in discussions. We've got other potential things that we can do with the LP, but we're going to be leaning towards staking. We hope to release staking within Q4, and so our focus will be split between staking contracts and LPs. So there's a number of different ways that we can utilize treasury supply to incentivize users, but I think we've incentivized users, as far as that goes, pretty heavily and pretty successfully. Now the draw is not so much having people want to go in an LP and earn more tokens. It's having people realize the value of the token and the scarcity that will be introduced as these merchants that we are talking to begin to buy, right, and accumulate and remove from that circulating supply. But yeah, we will have further rewards, and we will have, we will always have some sort of rewards. We are like we like to think of ourselves as the Chuck E. Cheese of crypto. You can go out and you can convert this token into that, prizes, other tokens, and that sort of thing. So we always want to have rewards. It'll be baked into our ethos. What it looks like is going to change, through different phases and epochs.
Yeah, and you absolutely have to be responsive to the business needs, the market needs, and various other factors. Again, I wanted to put that out there because I know you've addressed it a number of times in the past, but it also speaks to that quote you gave me before from the Secretary of State's office, I believe you said, of Wyoming, were the clearest case of utility token exemption. And I think you're speaking to that now. If we're clear from the production room with no other questions that I've missed, then, gentlemen, what I'd like to do is take a brief moment before we sign off and mention something that happened recently. I'd like to do an in memoriam section for one of your team members. And we'd like to take a moment to remember and honor the memory of Kelvin from your team. Kelvin, you will be missed, and our thoughts, prayers, and meditations are with your family and with your friends. We would like to dedicate this live stream in your honor, and I believe we have a screen that we can queue up. Just if we could take a brief moment here. And thank you, because I know it's been a difficult loss for the team, and I can't even imagine the loss for family and friends. So let me turn back to JG and Gabe one final time. Gentlemen, thank you so much for doing this. Thank you for inviting me to be here as a part of this fireside chat with you. And as always, I want to leave the last words for you. Any closing you have for us, anything you want us to know, and any shout outs you want to make to your team or others out there.
Yeah, I mean, losing Kelvin was tough. He was one of the guys that was going to move from South Africa to the States and be like our fifth guy. So that was a big blow. A lot of the screens that you saw that we shared before, he designed those. And now with him gone, that's going to delay some further development. But he's been out for a while. He was sick for a while. So it was a tough blow. We want to support his wife and his family in any way that we can. We will put forth a link. We have not got any sort of link from the family yet. We hope to share that one. If not, we will create our own, and we have direct contact with his wife, Jasmine, and we can facilitate that. So if anybody wants to give, there's no pressure. We will be giving ourselves. If anybody wants to add to that, we have a couple community members that have come forth. Even some of the Zil in Port Wales have come forth and said that they wanted to donate, which is moving and touching. It's tough to lose them. It still doesn't feel real. But thank you for taking the time to honor his memory.
Yeah,
absolutely. And we do see some posts coming in across the various social channels also honoring his memory. Condolences to his family and wishing him to rest in peace. That is truly tragic news. And it's a horrible shame because it's on the back of such exciting news for PackagePortal as a whole. And as you mentioned, I know you guys were looking forward to, and he was looking forward to potentially even moving to the States, becoming a core part of the team. And that's an absolute tragic loss. So thank you all very much for sharing his work with us and letting him speak to us through his designs, through his work, through his development. That is something that can always live on within PackagePortal. So thank you all very much.
Very true.
At this point, on that somber note, I would say let's go ahead and wrap up. Thank you, JG. Thank you, Gabe. And thank you to all of you who are watching. Of course, thank you to Sam in the production room, who I'm looking at on my other screen right now. And we thank you. Hopefully, we'll be back in a few months, or the PackagePortal team will be continuing to issue your newsletter, right?
Yeah, and in addition to that, Gabe and I have plans to do this a lot more often, more frequently. Q4, we want to be in front, even leading into that, we want to be in front of the community more, just have casual chats, updates. It doesn't even have to always be about the product. We might be talking about our journey as, startup entrepreneurs, all different kind of things. I think it's helpful for those in this space who want to get into crypto or want to get into startups and create a business. And so we just want to be tools. If anybody can follow the path that we did, we're still walking it. We're still on this path, but we've whacked some bush. We've cut a little bit of a trail that you might be able to follow behind, and we're happy to share. And just, be public figures, be in the space, develop in public, in prod.
All right. Well, that's all for us. Thank you so much for joining. And as always, hit us up on social, PackagePortal, Twitter, Telegram, wherever else you are. I know TZO and I'm there as well. Thank you all for watching.
Thank you, Chase. Thank you, Sam. Goodbye, everybody.